I am proud to be a Democrat. I am proud of the debate that Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton had in our primary. Way to go. I am proud that we are a party that doesn't debate who has the smallest hands or who can build the longest, tallest, fake gold-plated wall in the world. I'm proud that we are not looking for the most obscene way to demean women. I'm proud that Democrats spend our time working on how we can build a future for all of our people. And now, thanks to Bernie Sanders, we have the most progressive Democratic platform in American history. And you know what? We're here to fight for that platform. You bet. And let me be clear to every person who felt the burn during the primary, America and the Democratic Party know the power and energy of the progressive movement. Yes. Now look, Democrats have debated substance and ideas, how best to hold Wall Street accountable, how to make college debt-free, and it has made Democrats a stronger party. It has made Hillary Clinton a stronger nominee. And when we send Hillary Clinton to the White House, it will make America a stronger country. Yep. You know, this is personal for me. I'm not somebody who ever thought I'd be in politics. I'm a kid who grew up not too far away from here in Oklahoma. We got a few. When I was growing up, my daddy sold fencing, he sold carpeting. When I was 12, my 3 older brothers were all off in the military, and my daddy had a heart attack. And it was a tough time for our family. My mom got a minimum wage job at Sears, and that minimum wage job saved our family. But for me, there was just one thing I wanted always in my life from the time I was a little girl. I wanted to be a teacher. Can we hear it for America's public school teachers? It's true. It's all I ever wanted. This is the truth. I used to line my dollies up and teach school. It was tough being one of my dollies, you know. I don't think you did your homework last night. You know, it was rugged out there. But you bet. But you don't get to be a teacher if you can't afford to go to college. And for me, what that meant is I got a chance to be a teacher because of a commuter college that cost $50 a semester. That college opened 1 million doors for me. America is truly a great country. That's what this is about. But that's what it meant to grow up in an America that invested in our kids. You know, I'm worried that my story is a story stuck back in time. Once we were a country that taxed the rich, and then we made investments for everybody else. That's how we did it. We built a future by investing in education, by investing in infrastructure, by investing in basic research. We built a future to create opportunities, not just for a few of our kids, but for all of our kids. That's what it was about. Now, I am going to play teacher for just a minute because I want to make a point about this. It worked. Here's the amazing thing. When you look at the numbers from 1935 to about 1980, that is when Ronald Reagan got elected, just saying. When you look at the numbers for that period of time, what you see is two things. GDP just keeps going up. Year over year over year, we get richer as a country. But here's the other thing. The 90% of America, everybody outside the top 10%, the 90% of America got 70% of all the new income growth in this country. That was an America that worked for all of us. Yeah. And look, we weren't perfect. There were lots of places where women weren't welcome, where African Americans weren't welcome, where Latinos weren't welcome, where the LGBT community was locked firmly in the closet. But we were bending the arc in the right direction, and it showed. And I'll give you just one example of that. In the 1960s and 70s, the black-white wealth gap that has been there for as long as we have measured economic numbers shrunk by about 30%. We were making ourselves a better country because that's what we can do when we work together. That's how it works. You know, the way I see it, me and my dollies, we're living proof of an America that works. That's right. But starting in the 1980s, the Republicans took this country in a different direction. I heard somebody shout it earlier, trickle-down economics, which basically meant let's help the rich and powerful get richer and more powerful, right? And that's what happened. Basically, they said, I know what let's do. Let's cut taxes for everybody at the top. And then, when there's not enough money to go around, what do we cut? The investments in education, in infrastructure, and in basic research. We've had 36 years of that. And let's do it one more time about what the numbers show us. 1980 to 2015, GDP keeps going right on up. Our country gets richer year over year. But the 90%, the folks who got 70% of all the new income growth in that first period, the 90% from 1980 to 2015, you know what they got? They got effectively zero. Not even 1% of the growth in income. You got to think about that, because what it really means is we have become a country that works great, but it only works great for those at the top. And that's why we're here. We're here to fight back. We're here to build a better America. Yeah. We're fighting back, and we're fighting back against a basic GOP philosophy that says, I got mine, the rest of you are on your own. That's right. A basic GOP philosophy that says, help the rich and powerful get richer and more powerful and step on everyone else along the way. You know, Donald Trump has been talking a big game. He's been talking and talking about how the game is rigged. Well, I want to say this. He's right. The game is rigged. It's rigged for the Donald Trumps and billionaires of the world, and we're here to fight back. That's what we're here for. Yeah. Okay. So just for a minute, let's talk about Donald Trump's record. ready for this? All right, buckle your seatbelts. All right, so let's pick one part. Before the 2008 crisis that hit families here in Colorado and all across this country, Trump said he was excited for a housing crash because then he could swoop in and buy up more real estate on the cheap. What kind of a man does something like that? I'll tell you. I'll tell you. Trust me on this. I will tell you. What kind of a man roots for an economic crash and for people to lose their homes? A small, insecure money grubber who cares about no one and nothing but himself. A man who will never be president of the United States. Yes. Or another part of Trump's record. You know, here's a man who ran businesses, likes to brag about it, but he stiffed the painters and the plumbers and the construction workers who built his golf courses and casinos. He didn't pay them what he owed them because he knew he could send in his high-priced lawyers to roll right over them. What kind of man does that? A pathetic cheapskate, a man who will never be president of the United States. That's who. And now, Donald Trump, the big, brave Donald Trump, is too chicken to release his tax returns. Bark, 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 bark. Too chicken to release his tax returns, but he said in that first presidential debate that he's smart to pay no taxes. Yeah, that's right. That's his view. He's smart, and all of you who pay taxes are dumb. Everyone who pays taxes to keep our roads and bridges working is dumb. Everyone who pays taxes to keep our world-class military working is dumb. Everyone who pays taxes to support medical research and scientific research is dumb. Dumb because, according to Donald Trump, he plans to scoop up all those benefits and not pay a dime. Now, what kind of a man does that? A selfish little sleazeball. A man who will never be president of the United States. Yes. Yeah. You think so? Yeah. Now, you know, we've had a lot of speculation. I love you too. You know, we've had a lot of speculation about why Donald Trump won't release his taxes, but we're starting to get some idea. And here's where part of it comes from. We finally got a look at just his 1995 tax returns, 1 year. 1 year in which Donald Trump claims he lost nearly $1 billion. Woo! If the House always wins, how did he lose $1 billion in a gambling casino? Woo! Let's face it, Donald Trump is a two-bit con man who may just be the worst worst businessman in modern history, and who will never be president of the United States. So look, we can talk about this kind of thing all day long, but here's the real heart of it. Given all of this, how does Donald Trump plan to become president of the United States? Oh, I think he does. And I think he thinks he can win by fanning the flames of fear and hatred, by turning neighbor against neighbor, by persuading you that the real problem in America is your fellow Americans, people who don't look like you or don't talk like you or don't worship like you. You know, when we turn on each other, bankers can keep running our economy for Wall Street. Oil companies can fight off clean energy. Multinational corporations can ship jobs overseas. When we turn on each other, rich guys like Trump can push through more tax breaks for themselves. When we turn on each other, we will have neither the will nor the money to be able to build a future for ourselves. Well, I've got news for Donald Trump. His plan to make us turn on each other will not work. We believe we are stronger together. Yes, stronger together. That's right. You bet. You bet. Donald Trump has shown us something else during this campaign. He has shown us just how much ugliness is in his heart. I never in my life thought that we would see a nominee for President of the United States who calls women fat pigs and bimbos. I never thought we would see a nominee for president who would brag about sexually assaulting women. I never thought I would see a nominee who would attack his victims who came forward saying they were too ugly to have been the objects of his assault. You know, I want to say this. Some people say it makes them sick to hear Donald Trump talk like that. Well, not me. Donald Trump's words don't make me sick anymore. They make me furious. You bet. Words like that, we're here tonight to double down that Donald Trump will never be president of the United States. Yes. Now, not tonight, not tonight, not tonight. Now look, Hillary Clinton has spent her whole career standing up to bullies like Donald Trump. Yep, she's been on the receiving end of one attack after another for 25 years. And I'll tell you this about her, she doesn't back down. She doesn't whimper, she doesn't whine, she doesn't take to Twitter at 3 in the morning to call people bad names. No. Hillary just gets up every day and keeps on fighting. Fighting for children, fighting for women, fighting for health care, fighting for human rights, fighting for a level playing field. That's what she does. Yep. Hillary has brains, she has guts, and she has a thick skin and steady hands. But most of all, she has some basic decency. And that's what America needs, and that's why I'm with her. Are you with her? Are you with her? You with her on this? All right. Good. You with her? Good. Good. All right. Hillary. Good. Good. Okay. All right. So great. So I got 2 asks for you. You don't get out of here without a couple of asks. All right. The first is that all Colorado voters will get their ballots in the mail. This is the first time this has happened. So tomorrow is the big day. The ballots go out tomorrow. Mail it in or drop it off, but vote. And when I say vote, I mean you vote, but also your mom and your dad and your sisters and your aunties and your uncles. You are responsible. Students, next week, you can come right here on October 24th. You can come to the student union. You can register to vote. You can drop off your ballot. You can vote in person, whatever you want to do. But make sure you vote for Hillary Clinton and you vote for Michael Bennet and you vote for Democrats up and down the ticket. Yes. Yep. We need you in this. Okay. That was one ask. That was my big vote ask, okay? You and everyone you know. The second ask is volunteer. We gotta have the volunteers. We're down to the short strokes here, and we gotta have the volunteers. You can go to hillaryclinton.com to sign up. You can whip out your phones. You can text Colorado 47246. That's 47246. Volunteer. Volunteer, because democracy won't survive on its own. Volunteer, because we need your voices in this. We need your power in this. We need to build a future together. And it starts with volunteering. Please, volunteer. You gotta volunteer? Yes. Okay. So look, we can talk about Donald Trump, we can talk about Hillary Clinton, but ultimately, what this election comes down to is it comes down to our values. It's not about one person. It's not about one candidate. It's about a movement, a strong, powerful, vibrant movement to make real change in this country. That's what it's about. And so, we take this chance when we come together to renew our commitment to each other, to renew our commitment to the future. And I'm here tonight to remind us what we get up for every morning and what we're still up working on late at night. So let me just start with one that matters to me very personally. We believe that every young person in America is entitled to get an education without being crushed by student loan debt. And we will fight for it. Yes. We believe that no one who works full-time should live in poverty. And that means raising the minimum wage, and we will fight for it. We believe that workers should be able to organize for better pay, for health conditions. We believe unions built America's middle class, and unions will rebuild America's middle class. Yes. We believe that after a lifetime of hard work, seniors are entitled to retire with dignity, and that means protecting and expanding Social Security. And we will fight for it. Let me mention another one that's gotten personal. Wells Fargo cheated tens of thousands of people. Giant banks brought down our economy. Well, we believe in accountability for big banks. And when CEOs break the law, they ought to go to jail just like anyone else. Yes. Yes. Now listen, I'm going to say something really controversial now. Hang on, hang on. We believe, yeah, and him too. We believe in science. We believe that climate change is real, and we have a moral responsibility. We have a moral responsibility to preserve this earth for our children and our grandchildren and their grandchildren. Yes. I got another one here, and I cannot believe I have to say this in 2016. No, I mean it. I just can't believe it. We believe in equal pay for equal work and a woman's right to decisions over her own body. Yes. We believe, and boy, we really believe this one in Massachusetts, equal means equal. And that's true in marriage, it's true in the workplace, and it's true all across this country. Yes. You bet. We believe in keeping families together, in common sense immigration reform, and that we will never build a stupid wall between here and Mexico. Yes. You know, Donald Trump calls African Americans thugs. He calls Muslims terrorists. He calls Latinos criminals. And he brags about sexually assaulting women. Well, here's what we believe. We believe that racism and sexism and bigotry have no place in this country. We believe that Black lives matter. That diversity is what makes our country strong. Yes, that's what we believe. You realize I could do this all night. But we got somebody really good coming up. So I'm just going to do one more. Just one more. We believe that millionaires and billionaires and giant corporations should not be able to buy our elections or our politicians. Let me make this clear. We believe that corporations are not people. We will overturn Citizens United. We will return this democracy to the people. Yes. Look, our agenda is a progressive agenda. It is a Colorado agenda. It is an American agenda. And that is why Bernie Sanders and I are here today. You know, I just want to say one more thing. A couple of days ago, Republican Speaker Paul Ryan is so scared that they're going to lose both the White House and the Senate. That he described his worst nightmare. His worst nightmare? That a guy named Bernie Sanders would become chair of the Senate Budget Committee. Do you love it? Are you ready for a Democratic Senate? Are you ready for a progressive America? In that case, let's bring out my friend, Bernie Sanders.
Colorado, thank you. And let me thank all of you for being here tonight, and the many, many hundreds who couldn't get into this room or in the spillover room. Thank you all for being here. And let me thank the people of Colorado for the great support they gave our campaign during the Colorado caucus. And let me also tell you that it is an honor to be with you tonight with the great United States Senator from Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren. I am here in Denver tonight for two reasons. Reason number one is my 7 very beautiful grandchildren. And I intend to do everything humanly possible in the next 3 weeks, if I have to run around to every state in this country, to make sure that Donald Trump is not elected President of the United States. There has never been a candidate of a major political party in the modern history of this country, or perhaps throughout our entire history, who is less qualified to become president for so many reasons. For so many reasons. The second reason that I'm here tonight is perhaps the most important. And that is to tell you as forcefully as I can that politics for me, and I hope for you, does not end on Election Day. It goes without saying, and Elizabeth has just said it, that all of us together have got to do everything we can to elect Hillary Clinton president. But what is equally important is that on November 9th, the day after Hillary is elected president, we continue our efforts, because we know that what real change is about, what real politics is about, is transforming this country. And in that regard, we have got some very good news. Because of the victory here that we won in Colorado and in 21 other states, because of the fact that we got over 13 million votes and the strong, overwhelming support of young people and working people throughout this country, our campaign was able to sit down with Secretary Clinton and her campaign and write the most progressive party platform in the history of the United States of America. You made that happen. That's what you did. And that platform is available for you to read at Democrats.org. Now, over the next 3 weeks, what we have got to do is to make sure that everybody we know comes out to vote. And that not only do we win this election, we win it by landslide proportions. So there is no doubt, no doubt in anybody's mind that this country is going to reject that sexism, the racism, the xenophobia of the Trump campaign. But the day after the election, we know that as we go about transforming this country, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to fight back tooth and nail. If you think that the folks on Wall Street are going to sit by idly when we tell them that we're going to break up the largest financial institutions in this country, you've got another guess coming. If you think that the fossil fuel industry is going to say, okay, no problem, we will transform our energy system away from fossil fuel into energy efficiency and sustainable energy, they are not going to give up their short-term profits, believe me, without a fight. And if you think that the insurance industry is going to say, okay, let the United States end the disgrace of being the only major country on earth without a national health care program, you are not following what goes on. And if you think that our good friends at the pharmaceutical industry are going to sit by while we tell them that they will no longer be able to rip off the American people and charge us the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, if you think they're going to go peacefully into the night, you're mistaken. So we have a twofold struggle in front of us. Number one, we're going to beat Trump, and we're going to beat him badly, and we're going to elect a Hillary Clinton. But number two, we are going to bring millions of people together to create a political revolution and to create a government. I know this is a radical idea, but to create a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. I know that every person here understands the history of the United States, and that real change, profound change, never ever takes place from the top on down. It is always from the bottom on up. That is the history of the trade union movement, when workers came together and said, we are not animals, we are human beings, we're going to organize, we're going to collectively bargain for decent wages and decent benefits. That is the history of the civil rights movement, where the African American community and their white allies for hundreds of years stood up and said loudly and clearly, we will not tolerate racism and segregation in America. And that change didn't come about just because the president signed a Voting Rights Act. It came about because Millions of people struggled year after year. Some went to jail, some died, some were beaten. And that is how change comes about. Change comes about when we understand that 100 years ago, not a long time in human history, women in America, they weren't United States senators, they weren't running for president, they did not have the right to vote. They did not have the right to get the education they wanted or the jobs they wanted. But women said, excuse us. We will determine our fates, not the Donald Trumps of the world. And women went to jail. They went on hunger strikes. Some of them even died to make certain that in America, women would not be treated as second-class citizens. And more recently, when we talk about change, if we were here 10 years ago, no time at all from an historical perspective, and somebody jumped up and said, you know, I think that in the year 2015, gay marriage will be legal in America. Somebody else would have jumped up and said, you're nuts, that ain't going to happen. But because of the struggles of the gay community and their straight allies, it did happen. So my point is that real change only takes place when millions of people are prepared to stand up and fight for that change. And that is why we need to come together and, number one, understand that if we do not get our act together, this country is going to slide into oligarchy, where a handful of billionaires will control the economic and political life of this nation, and we will not allow that to happen. Right now, as we speak tonight, the Koch brothers and a handful of billionaires, are attempting to buy the United States government. And that is why together we are going to overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decisions. And right now, as we speak, there are Republican governors all across the country who do not have the guts to run campaigns based on their ideas, but are trying to suppress the vote. We will not tolerate voter suppression in this country. Now, I have been running all over this country for a year and a half talking about a corrupt tax system, and on one day, Donald Trump did more to explain the corrupt tax system to the American people than I did in a year and a half. Thank you, Donald. Because what Donald said is, he said, yeah, I'm a multi-billionaire. Yeah, I got mansions all over the world. But you know what? I, a billionaire, don't have to pay any taxes, and I'm proud of it because you suckers are going to pay the taxes for me. Well, we got some bad news for Donald. Not only is he not going to become president, but he and his billionaire friends are going to start paying their fair share of taxes. We have a situation today where major corporation after major corporation is moving offices to the Cayman Islands and in other tax havens, and after making billions of dollars in profits, are not paying a nickel in federal taxes. Brothers and sisters, that is going to change. Now, I find it rather amazing that a billionaire like Trump, who lives in the lap of luxury, doesn't even have the guts to call for an increase in the starvation minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. What we have seen in recent years is incredible courage by workers in the fast food industry. And they stood up and they told America they cannot make it on $7.25 or $8 or $9 an hour. We hear what they are going through. We're going to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And we are going to end the national disgrace of women making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. You know, Donald Trump has been talking a whole lot about trade. Well, you're looking at a senator and a former congressman who voted against every one of these disastrous trade agreements. But I say to Mr. Trump, instead of giving speeches about trade, why don't you lead by example? Why do you continue to have factories in Bangladesh where you are paying workers 30 cents an hour? Why do you continue manufacturing your clothing lines in Mexico and in China? Why do you make your furniture in Turkey? Why don't you walk the walk instead of just talking the talk? So I say to Mr. Trump, yeah, we heard your speeches, but now lead by example. Bring those jobs home to the United States of America. When we talk about transforming America, we have got to have the courage to take on the greed, the recklessness, and the illegal behavior of Wall Street. Elizabeth just talked about the fiasco of Wells Fargo. Was anybody really shocked? The truth is that the business model of Wall Street is fraud. That's what it is. Every now and then, they get caught. Oftentimes, they do not get caught. In my view, the time is long overdue for us to do several things regarding Wall Street. Number one, when you have a handful of financial institutions, 6, that have assets equivalent to 58% of the GDP of this country. When a few banks issue almost all of the credit cards and a third of the mortgages, I think that if Teddy Roosevelt, a good Republican, were alive today, you know what he would say? Break them up. And I also think the time is long overdue for us to impose a speculation tax on Wall Street. Now, after the campaign ended, Secretary Clinton and I sat down. After the primary campaign ended, Secretary Clinton and I sat down and tried to figure out how we can work best together. And we came up with several agreements. And one of them is an understanding that if our country is going to do well in the global economy, we need the best educated workforce in the world. I want you just to think about it. In a changing economy with an exploding technology, just think about the fact that we got hundreds of thousands of bright young people in this country today who cannot go to college for one reason, and that is their families lack the money. Now, how many great scientists and engineers and teachers we are losing because those young people cannot afford to go to college? God only knows. And then we got another reality out there, and that is that we got many millions of people who are leaving school deeply in debt. How many people here are dealing with student debt? Well, there it is. Our job as a nation is to encourage people to get all of the education they can, not to saddle them with tens and tens of thousands of dollars in debt. And out of those discussions between Secretary Clinton's campaign and our campaign came a couple of very important areas of agreement. Number one, we will make public colleges and universities tuition-free for all working families in this country. For every family earning less than $125,000 a year, that's 83% of our population. Now, you know what that means? That means two things. It means, number one, that people will not be leaving school with outrageous debt. But second, and even more importantly, I grew up in a family, did not have a lot of money. My father dropped out of school at the age of 16. My mother graduated high school. All over this country, in Denver and Burlington, Vermont, you got bright young kids, but these kids catch on when they're in the 5th grade or the 6th grade because their parents never went to college. They're poor. They understand that everything being equal, they're never, ever going to make it to college or make it into the middle class. And when we tell those children and their parents and their teachers that if those kids study hard and do well in school, yes, they will go to college. And that is a very big deal. Now, in terms of health care, as I mentioned earlier, every person in this room should be embarrassed that we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child as a right. And tomorrow, I'm going to be in Boulder talking about the need for a single-payer health care system. But what Secretary Clinton and I agreed on is a doubling of funding for community health centers all across this country. And that will mean that virtually any American, regardless of income, whether you have insurance or not, will be able to get primary health care, dental care, will be able to get mental health counseling, and it goes without saying that we need a revolution in mental health in this country to make sure it is not a radical idea again to say that when people need mental health treatment, they should be able to get it today, not 6 months from now. And also, what community health centers do is provide the lowest cost prescription drugs available in the United States. And in addition to that, Secretary Clinton believes that we should have a public option available as part of the Affordable Care Act in every state in this country. Now, we should be nice to some of our Republican friends because they suffer from a serious illness. See, unlike Donald Trump, we don't make fun of people who have disabilities. So we're not going to make fun of some of our Republican friends who suffer from a very serious illness called amnesia. You see, they seem to have forgotten the state of the economy 8 years ago when Obama first became president. Now, it is very easy for them to blame the president if it is too hot, if it's too cold, if it's raining. It's all Barack Obama's fault. We know that. But on the other hand, maybe just for a second, they might want to remember where we were 8 years ago today. And where we were is that we were losing 800,000 jobs a month. Now, my Republican friends, they say, well, we're only gaining 150, 200,000 jobs a month now. Obama only brought about the gain of about 11, 12 million new jobs. Not enough. Well, maybe it's not. But gaining 200,000 jobs a month is a hell of a lot better than losing 800,000 jobs a month. And my Republican friends in the Senate, they worry about the deficit so much, which is why they continue to want huge tax breaks for billionaires. But they forget that when President Obama first came in, we were running up under George Bush the largest deficit in the history of this country, $1.4 trillion. And by the way, just in passing, some of us remember that when Bush left office, the world's financial system was on the verge of collapse. Other than that, trickle-down economics did very well. Now, what Secretary Clinton understands, what Elizabeth Warren understands, what you understand, and what I understand, is that in the last 8 years, we have made good progress, but not enough. Much more needs to be done. Official unemployment is at about 5%. Real unemployment, including those people who have given up looking for work or who are working part-time when they want to work full-time, is over 9%, much too high. And what Secretary Clinton understands is that we have got to create millions of decent paying jobs, and the best way to do that is to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. A number of months ago, I was in Flint, Michigan, talking to parents of children who had been poisoned by lead in their water. And if anyone thinks that Flint, Michigan is the only community struggling with clean drinking water, you would be sorely mistaken. All over this country, when I was in California, I didn't know this, you got thousands of homes there, often homes of farm workers. When they turn on the water, they can't drink that water. It has too many pesticides in it. All over this country, we have a major water crisis. Our wastewater systems are falling about. We have roads where potholes swallow up cars. We have bridges that are on the verge of collapse. We used to lead the world in our rail system, no longer the case. Airports in bad shape. We can and must create millions of good-paying jobs, rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, building affordable housing, putting our people to work doing that. Now, it goes without saying that Elizabeth Warren and I have substantive differences with the Republicans on almost every issue. That goes without saying. But I'll tell you something that does not go without saying, and that is we have an embarrassment that is almost impossible or very difficult to describe. And that is we have a major political party that rejects science. Rejects science. Now, how do you develop public policy if it's not based on factual scientific information? And what we have right now is virtually the entire scientific community. I'm a member of both the Environmental Committee and the Energy Committee in the Senate. I have talked to scientists all over the world. They are virtually unanimous in telling us, A, climate change is real. B, it is caused by human activity. C, it is already doing devastating harm to our country and the planet. And what they also tell us, which is pretty scary, is that their previous estimates were probably too conservative, that the situation is more dire than they had previously thought, that this planet will see a 5 to 10 degree increase, Fahrenheit increase in temperature by the end of this century if we do not combat climate change, that we will see more drought, more floods, more extreme weather disturbances, more acidification of the ocean, more rising sea levels, more international conflict. You know why you have international conflict? Because you're going to have people all over the world fighting for limited natural resources, for water, for land to grow their crops. And then we have a political party and a candidate for president who says that climate change is a hoax created in China. Unbelievable. So tonight, we tell Mr. Trump not only that he's going to start paying his taxes, but also that we are going to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. Now think about an America which leads the world in energy efficiency, coming up with mass transit, a new rail system, which comes up with programs to weatherize our homes, to move aggressively in wind and solar. Think about an America where millions of people are transforming our energy system and leading the world in saving this planet. That's the America we need. Hillary Clinton understands that we have a broken criminal justice system. And that system today allows 2.2 million Americans to rot in jail. We have more people in jail than any other country on earth, including China, 4 times our size. Hillary Clinton understands that it makes eminently more sense for our young people to invest in jobs and education, not in jails and incarceration. And she understands, and I am glad that we are making progress now at the federal level of eliminating private for-profit prisons and detention centers. And Hillary also understands that all of us as Americans are tired of seeing the videos of unarmed African Americans being shot. And that we need real police department reform, which, among other things, makes the point and helps train police officers who, by the way, have a very, very difficult job, but have the training to understand that the use of lethal force is the last response, not the first response. During the course of my campaign, I had the opportunity to travel around the country and to meet with all kinds of fantastic people. And when I was in Phoenix, I met with a group of young Latino boys and girls, teenagers, some younger than teenagers. And with tears in their eyes, they told me about their fear that someday they would go home after school and find out that their mom or their dad had been deported. Hillary Clinton understands that in the year 2016, where we have 11 million undocumented people, many of them living in the shadows, living in fear, that the time is long overdue for comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. Now, there are some people who tell us every single day, you turn on the TV and you hear it from all people, you hear it from Republicans, you hear it from some Democrats. Real change, profound change cannot happen. We just can't do it. I don't believe that for 1 second. I believe that the American people are profoundly disgusted at a situation in which we have more income and wealth inequality than any other major country on earth. The American people want change. Nobody I know thinks that it is acceptable or moral that the top 1/10 of 1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. Nobody I know thinks it is acceptable that we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth, while at the same time, over the last 16 years, there has been a 10-fold increase in the number of billionaires in America. 10-fold increase. And what the American people want, whether they're Republicans, whether they're Democrats, conservatives, or progressives, they are sick and tired of a government which represents the rich and the powerful. They want a government that represents all of us, not just. So our job, brothers and sisters, in the next 3 weeks is to do everything we can to elect Hillary as our next president. But do not listen to those people who tell you a day after the election, hey, we did it, go back to sleep, we'll get in touch with you 4 years from now. Don't listen to that. Our job is to elect Hillary Clinton. It is to defeat Trump badly, and then begin the process of bringing millions of people together to stand up to the billionaire class. To stand up to the insurance companies and Wall Street and the drug companies and the fossil fuel industry. When we come together and do not allow the Trumps of the world to divide us up, when we stand together as black and white and Latino, Asian American, Native American, when we stand together as gay or straight, white or black or whatever, when we come together, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. That is our job. Thank you all very much.